Alright guys, we're back for another data mine. A little surprising, yes. We already had 2 events this month, including a UR, and PR8 is just around the corner. This event even snuck up on us because the marketing team is more focused on Anime Expo, not to mention the ongoing art and cosplay contests. But alas, we are getting a new event today. It will go by the name of the Neon City Investigator. It'll be a mini event similar to like the Frostfall format, and it will bring us new German ships. 2 SRs from the Gacha and an elite accumulation ship. Like a full-on event though, we're going to be getting a new dorm theme, some new gear skins, and 7 new ship skins, 3 of which are L2Ds. We're also going to get some system optimizations with this update, including one that changes the way that daily commissions are generated. And of course, some fixes to New Jersey's 3D model because she was added to private quarters since my last data mine a few weeks ago. And with all that out of the way, let's jump into the ships. There will be no equipment today, just a commemorative medal. We'll start off with the Elite Destroyer Z13. She'll be obtainable simply by gaining 10,000 event points. Stat-wise, she looks very similar to other Z ships, and that's not particularly a compliment, although there definitely could be worse elite destroyers. Moving on to the skills. Skill number 1, at the start of the battle and every 15 seconds afterward, she's going to commence a Torp Tactic proc, and one of these effects will happen at equal chance. 1, she gets a 20% torpedo boost for 15 seconds. 2, she gets a 30% torpedo boost for 15 seconds. Or 3, she gets a 50% torpedo boost for 15 seconds. She's also going to proc a torpedo barrage every 20 seconds, and that's going to scale based on the Torp Tactic that she draws. A higher percentage torpedo boost will be more damage for the barrage. Well, that's some RNG, but there's actually some good payoff here. That third one where she gets a 50% boost actually puts her torpedo stat in range of like Shimikaze, so I guess that's interesting. Because it starts at the beginning of the battle, lasts 15 seconds, and procs every 15 seconds, it basically has 100% uptime, and because they're equal chances, the weight percentage boost of the torpedo stat is 33%. With the torpedo barrage, this is actually a solid torpedo skill. Skill number 2, her firepower related damage that she receives is minus 10%. When this ship's HP drops below 50%, spawn a 10% HP shield that lasts until the end of the battle, and then she gets plus 15% to her evasion stat if the shield is broken, and that procs once per battle. Overall, this ship isn't that bad for a Z ship. She seems like one of the better elite ones, but with the fact that Z1 and Z52 exist, it's hard to justify playing this ship. I would probably tier it in collection only. However, it is slightly better than some of the generic elite Z ships because it has some decent RNG for that torpedo skill number 1. It like can actually boost itself pretty well. But yeah, it's an elite destroyer in a German mini event. What did you expect? Alright, next up we got the SR German submarine KMS U-552. Stat-wise, she actually has the highest torpedo stat of any submarine in the game. Sadly, though, her torpedo efficiencies are subpar. Most old German subs have 125% efficiency in both slots instead of 125 and 120, and a lot of modern subs actually have 130 in both slots. So that somewhat offsets her higher torpedo stat. She is still a German submarine, though, so all of those Wolfpack skills are going to get triggered by her. That's an instant plus as we go into skills. Additionally, like other German submarines, she's short on oxygen and HP. But man, does her accuracy stat look very good, so she's going to be able to hit and crit more effectively. Let's move on to the skills and see if she's worth it. Skill number 1. At the start of the battle, she fights on the surface for 10 seconds, so that's fantastic for a ship with like barely over 1,000 HP. She does take minus 60% damage during this time period, so okay. She's going to launch a barrage every 3 seconds, during which enemies hit by that barrage take 10% more damage from herself for 10 seconds. This does not stack, and then she submerges back down after 10 seconds. She also gets plus 100% speed when retreating. Obviously, speed's a really good stat for the Vanguard, but not so much really for submarines. This is a really weird skill. I'm sure there's some historical reference to it, so let me know down in the comments if you know what it is. But fighting on the surface, generally not a good thing for submarines, especially if they have low HP. Even with this damage reduction, we've seen other subs do this. Tends not to be a good thing for them. The barrages look kind of nice. The extra damage is good. Obviously, it only applies to herself, but she's going to be doing a lot of damage. 3 seconds is a really good barrage there. And really, the speed on retreating is like, Alright, so I don't really like skill number 1, at least from a tactics perspective, so let's move on to skill number 2. She's going to deal an extra 10% damage against light armor enemies. Also, her torpedo stat and evasion stat are boosted by 5% for every KMS submarine in the subfleet, so that's a potential of a 15% buff. She's also counts for that, so she's always going to get at least 5% buff there. That's nice. It's not 7% like some of the other German subs, and it doesn't boost any of the KMS subs like, U-96 that gives you boosts to everybody in the fleet. But they are straight damage boost against light armor, and it is going to get like good stats here. The other thing I'm thinking about is she actually gets an evasion stat, not a hit stat, which kind of sucks. So that actually kind of counteracts the fact that she has a higher base hit stat. She doesn't actually get to boost it like some of the other German subs. So I'm leaning towards this is one of the not as good wolf packs as well. And then her third skill is just proccing a barrage when she's retreating. It is guaranteed to crit though, and it's enhanced damage when there are other KMS subs in the fleet, which is almost a certainty with this ship. You basically have to have 2 other German subs to even consider using this. So overall, this is another kind of U fleet for the fleet packs. I don't necessarily think that it gets into the best 3 for meta, but it's like right there. Like the stats are right up there. It's got the highest torpedo stat in the game for submarines and the highest hit stat of any of the German submarines in the game as well. However, that's like offset by those other minor things that I talked about as I went through the ship. This is a pretty decent ship. If you don't have a full like U-boat fleet, this is an easy one to kind of slot in. It definitely ticks all the boxes, but I don't know if it's like blows out of the water. I'm interested. I want to see how that skill number 1 works because that one makes me nervous. It kind of reminds me of how Morgador was killing herself really quickly, but then they buffed Morgador and Morgador is actually fine now with the damage. And I do like the extra barrages that she gets every 3 seconds that allow her to deal more damage. That reminds me of kind of like a mini U-47 skill, and U-47 is just broken. I think overall this is a pretty good ship, for a submarine. I think that you should definitely pick her up and want to acquire her, have her in your dock so that you have options for your U fleet. But once again, submarines are a whole different side of the game. They're non-essential and a lot of people just don't like them. They're just extra oil for extra DPS. And people aren't always as excited for submarines as they are other ships. There's still no UR submarine in the game. That being said, this is a good submarine, and I do recommend that you pick this up if you are interested in having a high collection rate and being able to use submarines. All right, we have one more ship, and that is the SR battlecruiser KMS Admiral Zenker. Oh boy, another German paper ship. Stat-wise, she doesn't look that impressive. In fact, her firepower at 375 is literally lower than the BlackRock Shooter Collab battlecruiser. She has a low HP pool, although somewhat mitigated by her heavy armor. Really, what she reminds me of is Alvetier, who is a forgettable SR German battlecruiser from the Welcome to Little Academy event last June. And even then, Alvetier has Admiral Zenker beat in the stats that matter. Skill number 1, she gets plus 15% stat boost to her firepower and reload. I think that is literally a carbon copy from Alvetier's barrage skill as well. Also, when she finishes loading her main gun, she's going to launch 2 different types of barrages depending on if there is one enemy on the field or if there are multiple enemies on the field. Okay, at least her barrage is guaranteed. Alvetier's is like 80% chance, but Alvetier also has this like burn effect. This one, I guess, gets boosted if there are more enemies on the field. So interesting, I guess. It's just barrage battleship. Okay, cool. Skill number 2, she gets minus 15% damage taken, plus 10% damage given. And then if she's the flagship, all of your Vanguard ships get plus 8% to their evasion stat and reload. And then all your main fleet ships, including herself, are going to get 8% to their firepower and hit stat. So this I like very much. There's a lot going on here. The damage reduction is going to be really helpful. Damage increase is just straight flat. I mean, it's simple. It's like do things, but it's really good. And then she's got some good flagship boosts here. So actually, and they're generic too. So actually this skill somewhat helps this ship. I think I'm going to say that this ship is better than Alvetier, mostly because, Alvetier and this ship just have meh stats and barrages, but this is kind of fixed because she actually, functioning as a support ship. This is actually not a terrible new player. Like, if you just want to buff all these other ships, if you're just trying to fill a slot. She obviously still has to be in the flagship to use her, but yeah, she's not fantastic. I think overall for this event, it's obviously a mini event. There's no UR here, but I think U-552 is probably the most interesting ship here. I think she is potentially usable. It's just that she's a submarine, and all of that baggage of being a submarine exists because of just the way that they implemented submarines into this game. But as far as submarines go, she's not a bad sub. Admiral Zenker is a really easy new player ship. She can buff basically everything, so in a really basic beginner dock, it can be easier to field a fleet with her. I still like Blackrock Shooter better than her, actually, but she's not bad. And then obviously Z13 is an elite destroyer. Better than maybe you would have thought. She does have like a 1/3 chance of being good based on when she procs. Like, she does have some torpedo damage on her, so that's interesting. If you want to stick to like KMS and you want to do torp damage, like, sure, you can maybe slot her and pray to RNGesus. But yeah, anyway, this is a German mini event, and so we weren't expecting a whole lot of like meta defining things. I thought this was somewhat interesting. I think some of the skins are also, I mean, we got a lot of skins for this event. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this data mine. I'll keep it nice, brief, and short, and I'm sure there will be PR8 next around the corner, and I will see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye now.